I never played the full release of Ratchet and Clank when it released back in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. My only experience of it back then was endlessly playing it on the demo disc that came with the PlayStation 2 magazines. I remember when demo discs were a thing. The gameplay in this iteration is superb. It's your classic platforming action which we sadly left behind after the PlayStation 2 era. You mostly play as Ratchet through the 11 or so planets that make up the game's levels, fighting off numerous different enemies as you go. Along the way you build up your weapons arsenal, which includes the Groovitron, a floating disco ball that literally forces your enemies to dance, to the more serious Rhino, which can end a boss fight in seconds, with the added bonus of epic music. Gadgets are another thing you pick up along the way. These help you explore the environment in new ways or even reach previously inaccessible areas. Clank also sees similar upgrades, going from just piggybacking on Ratchet's back to being a full-on jetpack in the later levels. He even gets his own special levels dropped in here and there. The upgrade system adds to the already deep and varied gameplay. Yes, while a lot of the game is spent swinging your wrench at enemies, the weapons, puzzles and hoverboard sections break up what could have been a monotonous experience. Guns don't come with endless amounts of ammo, so you do have to change up your tactics a lot, especially on hard. Enemy AI may not be spectacular, but it is effective. Enemy skirmishes have an intense and frenzied feeling to them, knowing that at any moment you could lose it all. I personally found a mix of Mr. Zircon plus the Groovitron and the Bouncer or the Rhino to be my weapons of choice. On the other hand, the Rilga hoverboard race felt a bit fixed when I first tried it, at least until I learned how to beat the rubber banding. It would have been a lot better if Insomniac had made these sections feel more like you were actually racing than trying to beat a scripted AI. Level design is pretty straightforward with branching paths in places, some of them behind hackable locked doors. These areas are accessible only through trespasser puzzles, which get increasingly challenging as you progress, switching up the game's pacing. Getting through all of them without using the auto hack tool is not only rewarding, but also gives you a trophy for your efforts. If you're not in it for the trophies, the optional puzzles give you access to a number of collectibles. Speaking of collectibles, exploring the levels is not a suggestion, but a must if you want to get the full experience, as some of the hidden areas hold the best loot. This may mean there will be a little bit of backtracking here and there, if not for the story, but for the loot, but all in all, it's very fun going through these levels in different ways. Collecting all the trading cards not only increases the amount of bolts or trading cards you get from dead enemies, but they also unlock Omega variants of the different weapons for the challenge mode. Gold bolts, on the other hand, unlock various cheats for use in your next playthrough, and the more you collect, the more rooms become open to you in the Insomniac Museum. Clank's gameplay sections boil down to either escaping for dear life, entertaining little puzzle sections where you fight a few enemies while trying to get out of a room, or get some gadgets that you need to progress. These were fun the first time round, but I began wishing Insomniac had done more with Clank and would have preferred to spend more time as Ratchet. Every enemy you kill gains you XP for both your weapon and Ratchet. Get enough XP and you not only unlock upgrades for your weapon, but also upgrade Ratchet's health so it can take a bit more of a beating. Since every enemy also earns you bolts, you can use those bolts to buy the upgrades you just unlocked. Those bolts can even go towards buying a new weapon entirely. Ratchet and Clank is addicting from beginning to end, helped by the amazing graphics on display. These are hands down the best platforming graphics I've ever seen. They have a pixel-like quality in that they are very bright, colourful and detailed in their own cartoony way. It makes a difference from the drab grey blandness that had infected the 7th generation of consoles. What's more amazing is that the frame rate holds up most times, even when things get crazy. But in my challenge mode playthrough, my PlayStation did begin to stutter and have very short freezes. This rarely happened though, and maybe it was because I'd already been playing for hours on end. I'm not one for following stories in video games, as it plays second fiddle to gameplay anyway. It does need to be at least serviceable to not detract from the game. Ratchet and Clank is the game of the game, so I'd imagine it ties into the movie of the same title. What is on offer here is as much a story about Ratchet as it is about Clank. You have Clank, a defective warbot fleeing from his creators, Blog Industries, run by Chairman Alonzo Drek. And then you have Ratchet, a mechanic from the planet Veldin, who desperately wants to become a galactic ranger so he can range across the galaxy. Clank crash lands on Veldin and is found by Ratchet, and the two are drawn into a tale of planetary invasion with a little betrayal thrown in, which gives you an excuse to go running around the galaxy beating enemy after enemy with comical weapons. My only complaint is the game is rather short in retrospect. So Ratchet and Clank is a fun and engaging platformer, which is a breath of fresh air in today's games market. Its tight controls, varied gameplay, spectacular graphics, and superb music score certainly make this game stand out. If the gameplay and dirt cheap price is not enough for you, maybe the inclusion of a challenge mode where you can go back and play the game again keeping all your upgrades will sway it for you. What's for sure though is this is one game you cannot afford to miss.